I think that obviously Mike Joy's in a tough position because I get that he wants to defend his employer and everything, but I didn't really understand where he was coming from with this one because I think the controversy regarding Fox hasn't been Mike Joy. I mean, Mike Joy is a living legend of this sport, and I think has very few detractors. If anything, I think people consider him one of the few bright spots of the Fox coverage still left. So this wasn't. I think he's taken a lot of this personally, and I think that's a shame because I don't think that's really what all this is about here. And I don't even know if it's Fox Sports. I think a lot of stuff has come out about the way this business model works, and people see that NASCAR is charging Fox a ton of money for the rights to broadcast these races, and so there's really no other option but to sell way more commercial time, and I think the fans would enjoy, particularly in light of what ESPN and Sky do with the Formula One coverage, where there are no commercial breaks. I think that it's a business model issue that, if there's ever a good time to talk about it, it's right now when we have 2 years left of his TV deal and we have contract renewals coming up in 2025. If there were ever a time to modify the business model here and see if we can continue to allow for more advertising and sponsorship in the sport to help make more money while trying to do so in ways that don't interrupt the racing with full screen commercials, when are we ever going to get a better time to talk about that? So I think, of course, on Twitter, you're going to get the people that don't know the full picture, that are the keyboard warriors that Mike Joy was talking about, that are just going to go off and say whatever's on their mind without giving it a second thought. But I think there's been a lot of very constructive criticism, particularly after the Daytona 500. We had that discussion here on Grid Live Encore, after the 500. There's something that needs to change with this business model. The current business model of how many commercials we see, I think in a lot of minds of the fans, is simply unacceptable. Now, whether that blame goes to Fox or to NASCAR or to both, I think is a whole nother discussion. But, why can't we at least have that conversation here? I don't know that the backhanded, comment that Mike Joy made going into the final full screen commercial break here really does anything to help things. I think if anything, I think Nick Bromberg tweeted this as well. If anything, it might turn some fans off and frustrate them even more. So I think it's important to have that conversation.
Yeah, and for me, I agree and disagree with Ben. I know we had some discussions prior.
Sure.
I enjoyed the comment from a fan perspective, like putting those people in their place. But at the same time, I felt the way it was handled might not have been the way it seemed like in his head thinking before he said it. But when you look at the charter system, then you look at the TV deal, they're both, and honestly, garbage. Like the way the system is set up, the way that NASCAR with the money and the funding and stuff, like a lack of better term, garbage. I apologize to those. But at the same time, when you look at it, I made the joke to Kobe and Joe in the pre-race show after, when Mike Joy tweeted out something about like $25 million per race. I said, I hope they put more commercials out there. How are they going to afford to keep this sport going without those commercials? So, I mean, when presented with new information, I'll change my opinion, obviously. But at the same time, just thinking Mike Joy's comment, I enjoyed it from like a fan perspective, but at the same time, I can understand where it's going to turn off a lot of people. And I don't know if it might have been warranted despite how the race was going. I think Fox Sports was doing a great job. I really think the coverage, and it's like that Michael Jordan meme. Like I took that personally, the 2311 owner. That's why I wanted to throw that reference in. Mike Joy, I see him has been the highlight and the star of Fox Sports coverage since the start of the season, but I feel like he's taking a lot of it personally when he shouldn't. I haven't seen many, and when you look on Twitter where the keyboard warriors are, you see a lot of hate comments towards Fox, but very seldomly do you see Mike Joy's name mentioned in that hate. So that's why I kind of agree and disagree with you, Ben, in terms of that. But I think what he said might not have been the best thing, but like deep down, I might have enjoyed it. But at the same time, I agree with exactly what you said, Ben. Maybe not the right time for that.
Yeah, I think it was good to shut the keyboard warriors up, but maybe, I think at the same time, there's been a lot of constructive criticism there. And I think, it's important not to just completely blow that off as irrelevant and, people that don't know what they're talking about. I think it's important to have that discussion.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely very important to have that discussion. And yeah, my Joy isn't the problem at all. It's just, the placement of the commercials and then how many commercials that there are. And I have to say, since the Daytona 500, I think the placement of commercials have been a lot better in the last few weeks. So I don't have much to complain about there moving forward. As you mentioned, been talking about the new TV deal. we can find better ways for placements of those commercials. I wish someone like Mother's Polish would just come on board and we could have commercial-free coverage for all NASCAR races. Or as we've also talked about in the past, we're moving to a streaming world where almost everything that you want to view in the future is going to be through streaming. So if they offered a commercial-free option on Fox Sports Go or whatever, I'm sure a lot of people would be willing to pay however much that would cost to watch free NASCAR coverage year round. I know some people say there's no way nobody would pay for that. I think people would be pleasantly surprised to see how many people would really be willing to, open up their pockets to pay for commercial-free NASCAR coverage. I'm sure everyone at Grid Network probably would as well.
Well, I said it on the Rolex post-race show. I would be perfectly fine with NBC upping the Peacock subscription a couple of bucks a month over the course of a year just for the one time a year to get commercial-free coverage of the Rolex 24 again, because we didn't get that this year. And of course, we had that whole discussion as well. But, like I said, I don't want to talk too much in circles here. I know we have to move on, but this is a conversation that I think we're never going to have a better opportunity, at least not for another decade, to have this conversation when we're in this transition period, like you mentioned, Kobe, with going from cable to streaming in many respects. When's a better time than now to at least talk about and see if we can find a solution that works for everybody?